So recently I looked at my calendar and saw that it was almost June and I felt like I'd forgotten something. I literally put 2 reminders in my phone and still forgot to draw the freaking mermaid. Anyway, this year I was super determined to post a mermaid during actual Mermay rather than June like I usually do, and so I had to get a move on with this painting. If you've been around my channel, you'll see that I have a little collection of monochromatic mermaids. I've done gold, orangey brown and greeny blue, so this year I decided to go for pink. I've always had a lot of fun looking at pictures of mermaids to decide what sort of design I want to do, and this time round I was thinking I want to draw a really floaty and almost fabric-like tail. Specifically, I was thinking of that sexy fish from Shark Tale, you know the one. Though honestly, I remember her tail being a lot floatier. Anyway, I started off without any real plans as usual. I wanted to also try to do a more complicated pose and some dramatic lighting this time, since all of my previous mermaids have been upright with the head at the top of the canvas, and so this time I wanted to draw her upside down. I initially wanted her to be fully upside down, but I realised I currently don't have the capabilities of drawing that, so she's still technically upright but her head is at the bottom of the canvas this time. I will do an upside down pose at some point, though I'll probably just need to find some more references and practice a bit more before I can do that. In the end, I did actually have to do a sketch this time since it was a more complicated pose than what I'm used to, but I liked the colours that I used for the first couple of drafts, so I just put it under the sketch and carved out the correct shape and then started smoothing things out and blending. I honestly wasn't super sure about the exact colours that I was going to use, so the blending was quite useful to create another base that I could work off of, and I just did what I normally do in terms of putting a multiply layer on and erasing to get a more dramatic lighting situation, which I worked on more a bit later. I used another Krita oil painting brush for the tail details actually. It was like an oil paint scatter brush. For a lot of my normal paintings it probably wouldn't have worked out, but for this specific example it turned out quite nice, so I'm glad I got the opportunity to try a new brush. I feel like there's so much choice about how to draw a mermaid tail and I can never decide how I actually want to do it. Like jewellery and general design is all very hard to choose. I also did end up cheating a little bit with the foreshortening of her torso because the lighting is so dramatic, so I could basically hide it away in shadow and not have to worry about it too much, and that's something I often do with my paintings. I'll hide stuff away in shadow or behind things if it's a bit too complicated for me to draw. I decided to make her eyes completely white with faint white irises to make her a little more creepy looking because I really like horror and I have a huge soft spot for kind of uncanny looking mermaids. I really like that sort of design. Bubbles, as usual, are always really fun to draw and they were my favourite part, I think, especially when you make them glowy. So I usually do that by starting with one colour and then making some small blobs and then putting additional smaller blobs inside the bigger blobs in a different colour, and then duplicating the layer but setting them to a blurry overlay and a blurry colour dodge layer, which kind of gives that glow effect. I'd say at this point most of what I wanted to do was already done and it was just about adding some more details, which is again the most fun part. Even though the hands were, I guess, kind of hidden in shadow, I decided that I couldn't just hide hands like I usually do, and if I actually want to get better I have to try and draw them somewhat decently. I mean, the hands didn't turn out that great as usual, but I do think they're better than I have done previously. I guess, I don't know, I think I'm slowly getting better at hands and whatnot. I just find that in general, if there's something that I don't know how to draw, I kind of just carry on as I normally would and I just let it be kind of rubbish in the painting, and then I find that eventually, as I just do it now and then, eventually it kind of starts looking okay. I did add some extra floaty stuff to her tail. I don't really know what to call it, but I did have fun trying to get that translucent effect. I guess it's like, I don't know, floaty details to her mermaid's tail. I did also end up moving some of the bubbles around here and there to try and improve the composition. I guess like to draw the eye in the direction that I want people to look at the painting. I don't know how good of a job I did because, again, I don't think my composition is that good, but it's one of those things that eventually over time it'll get better and better. Anyway, you can't have a mermaid without metal and jewellery, of course, which is always fun, and my painting would not be complete if I was not adding some sort of metal element to it. But yeah, after that I decided to call it a day, just to avoid overworking the piece and making it look too busy. But yeah, very happy with how this mermaid turned out, and thanks for watching.